So you like Project X, but you want to hit the ball a little bit higher. I got something for you. Stay tuned. Welcome back to the McGolf Shop. Jim McCleary here, and this is where we talk about golf club repairs, reviews, and fittings. All your scores can go low. If you would, like, subscribe, hit that stuff across the bottom. That way, more of this information gets out to the YouTube universe. Also on Mondays, we have a live stream. It's at 17:30 or 5:30 Eastern Time on the YouTube channel or Facebook. Check it out. It's about the same stuff. Ask me questions right there, and it is a very good time. Join us. All right. So Project X, and we do talk a little bit about Project X. Project X was originally what was called a rifle product, and it was the rifle brand. So you still will see every once in a while a rifle shaft, and that is very rare anymore, and it actually was a very, very nice shaft. However, rifle got purchased by True Temper. Now True Temper is making them, and you rarely see the rifle. However, the Project X, which is a very stout competitor, which brought a little something to the True Temper family, has been a staple for True Temper. Now, what does that do? Well, okay, True Temper has Dynamic Gold, which is basically the biggest shaft that's been selling for a long time. What Project X brings in the blue label is a much more stout profile and a more penetrating ball flight, even more so than, say, the Dynamic Gold. It has that different look where it's just a straight taper all the way, that there's no steps on it, so it has that signature appearance. Now, but the real problem is that you had to be one heck of you had to tug on it pretty hard, you had to release pretty hard. Literally, you had to be an aggressive golfer in order for this thing to work for you. Now, and you're like, oh, I can't get the ball in the air. Well, now they've come up with a new product. It is the Project X Red, okay, the Project X Red, i.e. with the red label. So what did they do? Well, they softened up a section of the shaft in order to go from a kind of a blue with a low spin, low trajectory kind of flavor to a medium spin, medium trajectory flavor. All right, so that's what this has done. And not as many SKUs as in the blue because it's not that popular just yet. However, it does come in a regular, a stiff, and an extra stiff. So 5.5, 6.0, 6.5. Got to keep an eye on those numbers because for a while they were floating around pretty good. And when you do this, in the lower, as you start at 5.5, 6.0, 6.5, the weights will also change. What that means is you're going to be around 100 grams in the 5.5, about 110 in the 6.0, and above that in the 6.5, somewhere around 120. Now, they don't have any flighted versions as of yet, and I'm sure this will change based on popularity, okay? So if you like the feel of the blue shaft, but you just didn't quite get what you wanted out of it, and you want something a little bit higher, the red could be for you. So what did I do? Well, I got one of these put on my fitting, it's on my fitting wall now, and I put one of these really funky looking new star grips with the tie-dye in it, and I said, let's go hit it. And so we are. What we're seeing here now is the HM Pro with the Project X Red. It is in a stiff flex, the 6.0, and both shafts are stiff. Both shafts are in the same, very close to the same weight category, so we'll leave it at that. And we look at the perspective view. A nice little pattern, albeit to my inside. If we look at it from this perspective, which is the landing area, nice and tight, right? It's not too bad. If I take out the three corners here, it'll be a really small, really small landing pattern. Not too bad. Last thing we want to check out is its acceleration, and there's all the shots. So what do we see here? What this is a load, unload, load, and unload, and it's accelerating through the ball. That's what we want, right? We want it to really accelerate through the ball. Now, what is all this other stuff saying? It means that the golfer, i.e. me, really has to work pretty hard to get this shaft to work in order to get the response that we're looking for, i.e. you have to be a hard transition, a hard release in order to make that go. So now let's go back and let's see how the gamer looked out. All right, we see the gamer just a hair wider, right? A hair wider, but you see the black lines. There's a conglomeration of black lines just like there were on the other one. in almost the same spot. I think we're going to find out that it was a little bit further. Yep, and there we go. So again, we have the same cluster, except for I take out the 3 corners, and then that guy's probably the only one that's out. So if we look at all the clubs, sure enough, the Mizuno is a little tighter with that. And if we look at the data, I'm carrying the ball from 177.9 to 179.1, so about a yard longer. Again, if we take out these other ones, I'm sure the numbers will get closer and the standard deviations would get much closer. So this is a side-to-side deviation, and as you can tell, it is wider, which would probably get way, way smaller, get more relative to one another. And then this is very comparable now and would probably stay in about the same. If we wanted to look to see how the shaft in this guy was looking at, you see it's more of a straight line, which means that I'm loading it all the way through the swing and it fits me a little bit more. All right, so if we wanted to go back and just see that, and that's just the, there's the best shot of the day, getting 195. That's ridiculous anyway, but it's pretty cool. But it's also the furthest one out there. Alrighty, so in order to figure out what shaft shear, let's go back and talk about that. Okay, so we added in, it's not a bad comparison, actually. I think it's actually a really good comparison, and it's doing exactly what one would think. So my gamer has the DG mid 90, and it's slightly lighter we get, but both stiff, both do mid launch, both do mid spin. So they're very, very classic examples of different golf shafts, and what do you get out of it, right? Now we saw that I actually hit the Mizuno a little bit tighter, right? A little bit tighter, however, a yard or two shorter, where the DG with the other one was just a hair longer, but a little bit wider. Now, what's going on? Well, it's profile of shaft. So when I'm swinging this one, it's exactly as prescribed. You have to really get after it for this shaft to work. So if you're not an aggressive swinger, let's just say, or fast tempo as the website would show you, then you probably don't want this shaft. Now you saw, well, Jim, you're what you would consider moderate, and I am. I think I'm kind of moderate, but I can pull down through pretty good. However, this one, you could feel the added bulkiness or the added stoutness in the shaft that is traditionally Project X, where in the new DG Mid, it felt softer, easier to bring around, that kind of stuff. Now you say, well, you did really good with this. Could you hit it? Well, yeah, probably, but as the round gets further in and I start getting tired and I'm not pulling down, this shaft might not react the way I want it to, where the DG Mid will. And so that's the deciding factor for me. However, we're talking about fitting and this particular shaft. So did it do what was advertised? Yes, it did. It kept you in the fairway, and it kept the ball flight. So again, I went back and I looked and I compared, and the ball height, when they're talking about the flights, were literally the same. Literally the same. They maxed out at just over 90, and in my DGs, it went actually a little bit lower because I hit a low shot. But as a whole, the flights were virtually the same. And you go, okay, well, what about the spin? The spins were within 150 RPM of each other, with this one being a little bit higher. And that's the reason why I didn't run out as far. So they're both doing exactly as they say. It's now become down to a feel perspective. To me, this one feels a little bit boardish, where the DG Mid feels a lot, we'll say, softer. Now that's for me, all right? I don't want to take you away from using the red, because if you're that person that just absolutely enjoyed the blue but just want a little bit more height, then this is the perfect shaft. I mean, it's right there. Now again, last bit spec-wise is that these will only come in taper tip. So if you're going to go into a parallel head, you're going to have to use a shim of some variety. That's not a big deal. And these things will most likely come in discrete lengths, so if you're going to go with some grossly long club, you're going to have to take that into account as well. So hopefully you like what you saw. Please like and subscribe. Join us on Mondays for the live stream. And as always, get fit and let's see your scores go low.